Should you avoid your smoking triggers? This is Nasya Davos, and in this video we'll talk about a misconception. You may have heard that when you quit smoking, you should avoid all your triggers at any cost. But is this realistic? Is it sustainable? Does it really help? Maybe you've even thought that you can go on a vacation on a faraway island and go away from your triggers. Of course, going on vacation is always nice. But what happens when you're back and your triggers are waiting for you? We're going to talk about it in this video. Stay tuned. Before we get started, subscribe to this channel and hit the bell button so you can get notified when we release more videos that will help you on your journey. So first, let's talk about what triggers are and how they're formed. Why do they have such a strong hold over you? And it's very important to know that, because that way you will understand and see for yourself if you should avoid your triggers and also how to make them weaker. So triggers are all the situations that remind you to smoke. Some common triggers are anxiety, boredom, driving, taking a break, finishing a meal, having a drink, feeling upset, or even celebrating. So you're connected to your smoking habit through your triggers, because your triggers spark your desire to smoke and they intensify your cravings. And as we explain on the third stage of the CBQ method, which is change your smoking pattern, your smoking habit, in other words, it all starts with a trigger. A trigger causes a craving thought, a thought about smoking that makes you feel like smoking, and then you pick up a cigarette. So your triggers affect your thoughts affect your emotions, and your emotions affect your behavior. So there is a chain reaction that leads to you smoking a cigarette, and it all starts with a trigger. So how are triggers formed? Smoking many times throughout the day. If you do that, then eventually smoking becomes part of your routine and it becomes a coping mechanism for you. Because while you smoke or you vape and nicotine goes to your brain and it releases dopamine, you're doing certain things and activities. You're living your life. So your brain has learned to link smoking and nicotine to those activities and routines and habits and people and situations. And these situations later become triggers. So for example, if you usually smoke while talking on the phone, then after a while, talking on the phone will trigger your cravings. If you smoke when you're bored, then your brain has learned to expect a dopamine release when you feel that way. And of course, the fastest way to get that is through a cigarette. It's definitely not the best way, but sometimes it's the only way we know. Or another example, let's say you have a meal, you smoke, you have a dopamine release. With time, having a meal becomes a cue, a trigger for you to smoke. Or you feel stressed, you smoke, you have a dopamine release. After a while, feeling stressed is an instant reminder for you to smoke. If you don't, your self-talk comes in, your craving mind, and tells you, you need one. If you don't smoke, you won't be able to cope. Just one cigarette, these things are craving thoughts. And the only reason your brain is insisting for you to smoke is because it thinks you need nicotine to be part of all those situations. You have taught your brain to ask for it, so your brain has outdated information. And the thing is that by constantly linking your emotions, situations, moments, and people to smoking, it's easy to think that without nicotine, without smoking, you cannot relax, you cannot socialize, enjoy life, take a break, drive, or concentrate. It's easy to think that without smoking, your cigarettes will magically take away with them your capacity to enjoy life and cope with your problems. But the truth is that you just don't know how to live as a non-smoker yet. But everything you do as a smoker, you can do better as a non-smoker. Everything you do as a nicotine addict, you can do better when you're free from addiction. You think you can't, simply because you're addicted to it. But when you stay away from nicotine, when you quit smoking, you start realizing that you've been in an abusive relationship that's based on lies and fear. You think it's love now, but in reality it's abuse, and you can only see that when you take a step back and get perspective. So, should you avoid your triggers? The answer is absolutely not. Now, I'm not saying to force yourself to face your triggers if you don't feel ready for it, but don't avoid them either. Just go on about your day, go on about your life. And I will explain why. Because when you stop smoking, your brain starts breaking the associations between your triggers and smoking. How does this happen, and how can you break the associations faster? Well, every time you're in a situation where you used to smoke and you don't smoke in that situation, and you feel calm and okay and content in that situation, you basically show your brain that, hey, I didn't smoke and nothing happened. So this new experience feeds your brain new information. It creates new neural pathways in your brain. It helps you rewire your brain, because your brain says that you don't need smoking to enjoy and cope in these situations, which is what it used to think. So with time, it adjusts. With time, the craving thoughts disappear because your brain understands that it doesn't have to remind you to smoke because you don't need it. So it's good to face your triggers, because that's how you can change the script. That's how you rewrite the script in your mind of how to be a non-smoker in different situations. But like we said, the key is exposing yourself to your triggers while feeling good about it. If you expose yourself to your triggers and you feel bad, this actually gives your brain the opposite message. It tells your brain that it should keep reminding you to smoke so you can feel good. So we don't want that. So face your triggers. The only exception I would give to this rule is maybe alcohol. Now, of course, you can socialize. Of course, you can still have a drink. All I'm saying is don't quit smoking and go get drunk the next day, because you're going to lose all clarity and the old conditioning will kick in. No, just pace it until you're used to it. Have one drink the first few times, or 2 drinks maximum, and have a glass of water in between. Okay? So, to sum up, triggers are all the situations that remind you to smoke. Over the years, your brain has learned to associate all these situations and places and emotions and people and other habits with cigarettes, and eventually those situations become triggers. Now, to break the associations and weaken your triggers, you need to expose yourself to your triggers while having a good experience. Don't avoid your triggers, expose yourself to them, because every time you experience a situation as a non-smoker, you're rewiring your brain and break past associations with smoking. And listen, just like your brain learned to expect nicotine, it can learn to not expect it and be content and happy without it. After all, you were born a non-smoker, so you can return to that state. It just takes some practice. Like we said before, the key is feeling good while facing your triggers. So how can you do that? How can you feel good when facing your triggers? Well, you need to change how you think about smoking. You need to overcome the mental addiction. And that's what the CBQ method helps you with. The CBQ method has helped thousands of people overcome their mental addiction so they can stop wanting to smoke and change how they experience smoking, so then they don't feel deprived without cigarettes, which is so important. And the CBQ method can help you as well. So if you want to know how to get started with the CBQ method, why it works and why it can work for you, we created a free video where I put all the information you need to get started with the CBQ method, which is the foundational video of the CBQ method. You're also going to get, you can find the link in the description, and you're also going to get a free PDF starter guide for the CBQ method. And this guide shows you what happens on every stage, and it has great tips for every quit smoking stage of the CBQ method. So go get this video and let me know in the comments, do you think you should avoid your triggers? If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you in the next video.